not even kidding. I only played.
Yeah, and we won. So.
I do got.
Yeah. You got a point.
Wait.
Kind
Paddy, do you want to do
Can I
that?
just check
I
something?
Or...
Yeah.
If we want to like pause and chat about something, can we just yell out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like
Cool.
at any point, if you notice, and I think it's like a safe enough space that people, you know, are comfortable being like, hey, I'm not sure if you did this correctly, or like, can we talk about something that, you know, like, say if Andy and I are playing and he does something that ends up getting me killed, then we can talk about that and figure out what the correct thing to do was. It's not like a personal attack. It's more just like, hey, you know, here's a thought.
Cool.
All kindness, etc., etc.
No, Libby, Divas.
Wait, so
That's
what
when
up, Paddy?
Peps is in. Peps is in.
Yeah, Peps is in it.
Wait,
That
I
means
can
you are playing
potentially.
Lucio. I'm Lucio. Yeah.
Uh,
Now, Paddy, you go Diva, and I'll Lucio.
okay.
Yeah.
I can Diva, just not very well. So, I think the last time we played Goats on Golf Guy, I tried to Diva and I wasn't the best Diva, and I think we lost. I know how to Diva, I just don't do it well.
So like straight out the gate, this is a damn good composition.
And then if we see them, we'll get aggressive. Oh, that's a hamster.
They got a Gengu.
Going.
So like there. And so like the only reason I sort of focused on this is because Quality, you had probably like the most consistently good cons, but unfortunately this is like an example of bad. Of like people understand urgency, and if something's like not that urgent, or if something's like really imperative and everyone needs to do it. But then there's sort of like a mid ground where you say something that doesn't hold much information. So something like go in, people get the intent behind it. They're like, okay, I've got to go in. So go in, but like on what? You know, so I tend to have like a little, you know, post-it note slapped next to my monitor that's got who, what, and where. So it could be like Zenyatta is 1 health over on right, or like on high ground, you know, that sort of thing. So, and that's, you know, part of the reason why even in this still, like the composition is sort of split up a bit more than Goats probably should be. But like honestly, that's okay. It's something to work from. But yeah, like in this sort of composition, since it is Goats and you all basically just walk as like a quick unit and mow down the closest person to the Reinhardt, Quality should be saying like, okay, killing the hamster now. And then once you've done that, then, you know, suss out the next target.
Winston.
That was good comms.
Nice.
Purple,
Back up.
That was really good as well. It's so like saying back up is super helpful. Not so much in like a way to improve, because this is more just like an experience / practice thing, but the composition that they have 2 like fairly high damage projectiles in Dynamite and Bionade, that honestly, like Putty's existence in this round should be looking for those 2 abilities and trying to eat them up, as well as Moira Orbs, because it just sort of shuts her down. But then on top of that, and part of the com that you made, I think Quality made it, of like back up, which is really damn good, because if you're all low status, they don't really have much in the way of shield break, so you can all just pretty comfortably get behind a Rhine shield. But if you're playing against a Hammond or a Winston, even though the Winston's dead, they thrive in open space because they actually have space to jump and they have space to pile drive and all that sort of thing. So like, can you imagine now that if everyone was, instead of backing up, which you still did, and like backing up compared to not backing up is, you know, obviously good, like you guys did a good job, but like what could have been potentially better so that people didn't die, or that the Hammond could just get absolutely no value, is if you guys backed up to indoors, because as soon as you're indoors, he can't really touch you without looking like an idiot. But that's more just like a quick thinking thing that is a lot harder to do in game, whereas in a VOD review, you've got time to think about it.
Oh, good, thank you. Alright.
Oh, I'm gonna snap like Ash.
Oh, never mind. I didn't see where that was.
Whew!
Oh, we got
Hercules has found a new main.
Alright. Well, at least we got the first
we got
percentage.
like 1%.
So that was like, as far as first engagements go, like your guys' cohesion was actually really good. Like you didn't split apart majorly, or at least not enough that they capitalized on it and just completely ruined you. But the main issue that I saw, at least as a team, would probably be comms. And it's like such a boring ass thing, because like pretty much every single time we have a VOD review, it's always going to be like, it's never going to be a super niche thing that me or Andy are picking up on. It's always going to be something like communications or like alt tracking, you know, fairly like fundamental communication things. And so like in this, I noticed maybe like 10 seconds before I paused it, there was a like a 5-second silence, which could be filled with information. And that's like writing down things that you personally want to comm is pretty damn easy. I tend to just have like a small little like A5 notepad on the other half of my keyboard that I don't use. Because then that way it just sort of helps to reinforce it to me. So, you know, whatever your guys' learning method is, if it's just constant trial and error, if it's writing something down and sticking it on your monitor, yeah, but definitely write down and put, you know, asterisks and highlight it and all that sort of stuff, that communicating specifically like relating to targets, like who to target, is really useful.
We got like 1%.
Alright. Are we still going?
No, it reset.
Green one?
Ooh, 8%.
I think go collect the others.
I think
That one we didn't really have a plan past going up
Sweetie?
there, so I think.
Libby, can you go
Yeah.
collect them?
True words.
Yeah, but they're still.
Bye.
Alright, cool. Let's go down main, try to engage them onto the point. Swing into the Winston again, because that worked pretty well. Make them come to
Sweet.
us, go around the outside.
Go around.
Oh, dude, dynamite.
On the outside?
Roll anti.
So that is a really smart move. Like, and not me saying it sarcastically or anything like that. But saying, like, someone said, okay, we're gonna do this because you've identified like where your composition strength is. So like if you're playing goats and you're playing against 2 dive tanks and 2 like more or less hit scans that rely on having a fairly clear line of sight, why would you not fight on the point? You know, you've got like a really big shield with 2,000 health, and you've got a team with a crap load of damage. So that was a really good one. I think the part here where it sort of came undone was that they got their 2 projectiles that did so much damage to you guys, the dynamite and the nade, that pretty much everyone was just crippled.
Yeah, let them use ults.
Smart move.
Wait, Brayden's on DPS? Didn't used to.
See, like with that for them, since they already had possession, they didn't really need to invest a Dragon Blade, but like, you know, their loss.
Okay, do we want to try going through that point again, around the back, so we don't get hit? Or
Right.
meet them up the top? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, does dynamite do extra
Wait.
armor, or was it multiple? They were just around the side. I hear
Okay.
as that ball.
So like at this point, what is your guys' win condition? Like what's the thing that if you do it correctly, they'll lose? At least for this team fight.
Anyone.
I guess.
It's okay. It doesn't need to be correct. It's more just like throwing ideas out and trying to figure out the validity of each.
Eliminating their projectiles, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
getting them
Like
to stick
with
every
the
time.
with the sort of current skill set you have, or the current resources you have, including ultimates, what would you say would be the best bet, like given this pause frame right now, to shut them down?
Probably throwing bomb out there. to engage.
Yeah.
Sort of scatter them, I guess. That's looking at the ultimates that we have in the way that we're coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe like speed boost straight onto that high ground and get them all off that high ground where they have like free reign to just throw stuff onto the point.
Yeah. That's probably like the best one in terms of like the immediate action to take. Like, and what I'm talking about with win condition is alt tracking and alt planning. So you've got the alt planning, like what alts do we have? What are we going to use? How are we going to get this point back? And then there's alt tracking, which is, say like on our team, there's normally just 1 or 2 people that are alt tracking, and they keep track of all the other enemies, like all 6 enemies, and what ultimates they have or they'll have soon. But a really useful thing to do is if you're, say like if Alamant's playing Genji, or if you're playing against a Genji, you generally know how long it takes for a Genji to get Blade, you know? So what you can do is you, like after a point you have a feeling that the Genji's going to have Blade, you can say the Genji has Blade. You know, it's such a small amount of information, but is super helpful because it'll help you guys figure out what they want to do to beat you. So, you know, disregarding the left side of the screen because, you know, you can't see what ultimates they have in game, you could be like, okay, well, we've almost got Shatter. You know, we don't really have much in the way of support ultimates, but our best bet is going to be Shatter and Diva Bomb. The issue that the enemy team has is they've got 2 characters with like a pretty big lack of mobility. Like Ashe and Ana, so they would probably be the easiest ones to target, right? But the way that you can get to them is by, like, you've got goats. Is essentially just like speed really quickly into someone. They don't have Lucio, so they can't really run away from you all that well. But the way, at least that I've identified, that you guys lost a large portion of the fights on this point was that they would successfully get Bionades and Dynamite off every single time. Well, not every single time, but, you know, a lot. And that's something that should be gobbled up by Defense Matrix. Yeah. Like, as far as what sort of strategies to get on point you guys have, if it's unspoken, like if say like if you're playing solo queue and you're playing goats, like the exact same composition that you guys have, if no one makes a plan for where people should go, follow the Rhine, because like the Rhine is the biggest like shield that you can have at the same time as he's got the shortest range, which basically means that if he is hitting someone with his hammer, then guaranteed everyone else on the team can hit that target as well. So if in doubt, just follow the Rhine. Say if Koala T says, you know, we're going left, but she goes right, then like it doesn't matter because your aim is to follow the Rhine and hit whoever he's hitting. And then they put in...
Going on the healers. Ana.
Behind.
That Bob is horrible.
He doesn't have
Yeah.
I didn't have you.
See, like, that, even though they invested ultimates into that and you guys didn't, because you didn't particularly have time, like, you guys started off really, like, you rolled out really well. You know, you were all sort of bunched up in this area behind the Rhine Shield, which is perfect. But then as soon as something happened, you guys went, like, that way, this way, like, over here. And I think, is that Putty over here? There's Diva, yeah. Which is like not the goal of goats. Like the goal is to just stay together permanently. Yeah, and it's a fairly good composition to practice as well because its strength is in like the fundamental sort of, you know, you do things as a 6-person team. You kill the same target as a 6-person team. You die together as a 6-person team. You capture the point as a 6-person team. So it's good to practice.
Reset whoever's on point. Reset.
The dynamite.
Good tactical suicide.
Alright, so they've used Bob. They used Genji.
Bob, they used Nano.
Then they
Okay,
drown.
so are we jumping them or are we going straight to point? That's where I'm losing you guys on
I
this.
found a farming
When we
room.
go up the top, we're attacking.
I
When
can't
we
kill
go
them,
down
can
the
you come
bottom,
down?
we're going to the point.
Come down, come
Okay.
down, go
So
to me.
let's
go
go
to
to
me.
the
Bottom?
point this time again.
Yeah.
We're a torch.
Okay. There it is.
Oh god.
I'm gonna shatter.
We're do it.
Again, go on me in the mini.
The ball's low. Yeah, nice.
Mora just got it.
Mora behind us. Mora's on a den.
And he's behind.
So like your guys' comms
Yep.
in that engagement were a lot better.
Genji. Genji's hit once.
Even though I think they end up turning it over.
Genji's one.
Yeah, that
Genji's one.
they just all press Q. How rude.
Oh, that's all one.
I think we should switch because Ash does damage
Yeah.
a lot. It goes through shields. Yeah, it goes through shields.
So like, what did you guys think the major like issue or takeaway sort of is from that particular round?
Can I ask a stupid question?
There is no stupid question, but please do.
Okay, this might be my inexperience playing with a organized team,
Yeah.
but I noticed a few times our Zen got caught out, and she communicated she was getting jumped, but no one really jumped to her aid. So
Yeah.
I guess my question is there a character or a role that would help out Zen in that situation?
So like in this particular one, let's just try and rewind to a point where all six.
Like that last fight, I noticed in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah, where the Genji was nagging from behind.
Yeah.
Point this time again.
Let's see.
We're a torch.
Okay, so like even right here, I know that, and the only reason I'm sort of pointing this out is because I have the exact same issue. Is like whenever I'm playing Zen or Ana, my sort of default is to be like a safe distance behind my team, right? So you know, like the distance between Quirky and the rest of the team right now is like considerable enough that she's almost out of range of the Lucio speed,
Yeah.
which isn't ideal. Like in this particular situation, everyone needs to be standing inside their Reinhardt, like a babushka doll. Because that basically means that if a Genji's decided to like nag, then all of you as a 6-person like swarm can just screw him up. And it's super quick because you've got a speed boost. You've got, what is it, 16 healing per second plus 16.6 healing. You've got 32.6 healing per second from 2 of the healers. And that's disregarding Zen heals and Brig when she presses E. So like, you guys have a lot of heals and you have a really, really big health pool with your tanks. And the person that helps the Zen, because the Zen is sort of the linchpin of this entire thing, that he, you know, discords whoever the Reinhardt's swinging at and the person just gets mowed down. That partially wasn't all too well communicated, but that's fine. I can chat with you guys about that just in an individual thing later. But say if a Genji is irritating, just trying to find the still. Yeah, so just here.
Yeah.
Everyone is facing sort of in this direction, which is absolutely okay. That's, you know, that's where the point is, all that sort of thing. But the second that Quirky notices, like the second that she notices that there is a flanking Genji and he's by himself, which makes your life kind of a bit easier, you guys should stop, turn around, and click his face, like everyone. And I know that for the most part, you know, like a Lucio will tend to just sort of exist, but there are things that a Lucio who has like a fairly good survivability can do. Is he can like body block the Zen if the Zen's super low health. You know, it can just become a shield.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the Lucio can also like boot people away, which against a Genji is actually really good, especially if he's blading. Yeah, and if if Zen's super low health, like if he gets, you know, below half health or something like that, then generally the diva should be defense matrixing him, and the brig should heal with the repair kit. Yeah, because like if you guys turn around, do that to help your Zen, then your Zen sort of like becomes a little bit of a powerhouse, and there's 6 people staring at a Genji that's in that position because he felt like it, even though it was a
So-
stupid choice.
So us as a team, we need to listen to our Zen when they
Yes,
say
absolutely.
flanking Genji, for example, and we all
Mhm.
turn around.
Yeah, so with a composition like this, especially that you guys also really need to consider that they've got 94% captured. So you're going to need to have one person on the point, which you probably should put the Reinhardt on the point, just because he's got the shield, so it's another 2,000 that they have to burn through, and then he's also got a super high health pool. So if you put your... Wait, let me just do a really artistic drawing. So say if you've got the point here, I'm just trying to do it in perspective now. Artistic skills, etc. Okay, so say you've got your enemy Genji deciding to be a irrit and a nuisance over here. And then your Zen is like, okay, you know, he's flanking, so we've got to like, and this is the situation, or like the scenario that you have to have in your head is, okay, it's at 94%, there's a flanker, so how do we deal with the flanker and deal with the point at the same time? You know, how do we contest the point and keep all of our people alive? So the best thing to do in this situation would normally be to have your main tank contest point, because he's got a big shield that basically means that, you know, people's damage from on the point can't really get through to the rest of the team. But then at the same time, the Zarya, Diva, Lucio, Brig all try and kill this Genji, because once he's used deflect, or once he's used deflect, he's a sitting duck, and if he uses dash, then he either dashes into you guys and you can all kill him, or he dashes away and he's not a threat anymore, and then you can all push onto the point together. So like the first sort of goal or objective thing that you need to keep in mind is, are we going to lose the point if we don't act on this? You know, if it was 24% instead of 94%, then I would probably say, okay, you know, everyone just kill the Genji all at once. But since it's at 94, you need to have someone to contest while everyone does that anyway. Yeah, so at least with that, the sort of key takeaways would be for everyone to stay as close to the Rhine as possible, especially the Zen, and also for the Zens and the Reinhardt's callouts to be sort of taken into account by the rest of the team. So, you know, if the Reinhardt says, kill the Winston, then that means, okay, I need to aim at the Winston. You know, if you're Zenyatta, then you need to discord the Winston. And you can sort of reconfirm that or reinforce that by saying like Winston's discorded or Winston's marked. And then that's sort of the main comms behind how to focus fire as goats. Because everyone else can do damage, but something like discord or, you know, Orion swinging is sort of the key component, really.
Oh god.
Yeah, and then at this point they just had a lot more
You on
ults
me in the
that got a lot more value.
The ball's low, yeah, nice.
Warriors discarded.
Moira behind us. Moira's on a Zen.
And he's behind.
Heal.
Oh, yep. Ooh!
Genji's hit once.
51.
Genji's one.
Oh, that's all on
I think
Yeah.
we should switch because
So yeah, the thing that I've got written down is alt tracking, comms specifically about like targeting and focus targets, and then ability usage. But ability usage is stuff that I'm going to go over more individually because that's more about how you play a certain hero. So it's not particularly team related.
Ash does the shield.
Oh,
It's the ball that's really messing me up.
No. So the Ash and Ana throw the bombs in, and then the ball comes in and gets one off.
Do you want to do dive then?
And then they,
Yeah,
I feel like we might
perfectly
need
worded.
at least, if we're doing
Okay,
that next time.
yeah, Libby switch to Anna.
Dive.
Alright, so we go for the Ana and for the what's her face? Ash. Is our main targets? And if
This
the ball
this
comes
first
in on
dive
if
that
you're
you
not
guys did, by the
critical,
way,
just
is
kind of ignore them.
awesome.
Okay. Left side to the pillars.
Like you're all rolling out together. That's freaking
Alright,
awesome.
they've got Orisa. Watch for the ball.
And like here, even though you get naded,
That's fast.
Okay.
you just wait it out.
We should just try one big engage.
Don't lose your heads.
Yeah, I can nade it.
Yeah.
Got more,
Say
got
what?
more.
3, 2, 1. You ready, Putty?
I don't have amp.
This isn't working.
I'm on the other.
So like that, even though I don't have amp, but like you don't necessarily need amp if they have only immobile or relatively immobile targets. Like a speed boost is like honestly enough. But that first engage, disregarding that element died, honestly, this first engage was so well done. Like you're all calling out Ana,
Orisa's one.
you're all calling out Orisa.
Point. Get on point, healer.
Yeah. And then for some reason Libby died to a DPS Mercy.
Yeah, I was trying to get out.
Yeah.
Thank
That's the
you.
best I can do.
So like at this point, it's really hard for them
Goodness, that hit shot.
to like with the what am I trying to say? With the composition they have, it's really hard for them to recontest the point or to re-engage because they have an immobile shield, they have a relatively immobile DPS, and you guys have a dive composition. So like that's really good for you because it essentially means that you can just wait until they try and push through, get them in like an awkward spot, which is normally sort of here in this like little choke point, and then you can just say, okay, they're here in 3, 2, 1, and then you land on them, get a nade off, that sort of thing. And like you guys did that in the first engagement amazingly well.
Oof, I'm gonna need you to exist very hard. But
Or okay, wait, actually, I'm just gonna because there was something that I missed that I felt like should probably be sort of kept on. Is you guys have just like cleared out their DPS, you've cleared out their main tank and their like main source of healing, and then here, you guys only when you're capping the point, you only really need to have one person on the point. The rest of you can keep diving if there are any sort of applicable targets nearby. So like here, even though like disregarding that Libby died because whether or not it happened isn't really the point.
That was
But-
just stupidity. Continue on.
Yeah, like for whatever reason you died, but that's fine. But at this point, they've got a Mercy that is just sort of doing her own thing over here, and you've got like extremely mobile tanks with a fair amount of damage. So maybe it's something like Winston Diva jump across, and then Ana goes around and captures the point. Because that way, if you can get the kill on the Mercy, then you stagger them. And like capping the point straight away is like fantastic because you get like a few extra seconds that essentially sway the influence more in your favor. But if you can get that stagger kill, or if you can like keep getting successful dives off, then keep doing it. You don't need to stop the engage just because the point unlocked and you can cap it. You can just be like, Ana, stay back, cap the point, we'll do our thing.
Go
Point. Get on point. Get on point, healer.
Ah,
Come here.
well called out. I didn't hear that the first time.
Oh, I'm dead.
I'm dead.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I'm
So like at this point, you guys have just lost two. One of which is Libby, and you've got your Winston on half health. So if you sort of view this more as an equation, you guys are not like one whole. You're not 100% right now. You're like 50% because you've got two people down and the other's half health. And they have like a full health Roadhog, and the rest of their team is just about to engage, right? So at least as far as influence, or as far as like the possibility of who's going to win this next fight is concerned, it's sort of tilted in their favor at the moment. So that basically means that you guys can't really afford to play as aggressively when it's in their favor. So you have two dive tanks plus a Lucio, and you've got like a big enough health pool and like enough healing that you guys could just chill around in this back part of point where it makes it harder for the Roadhog to do damage to you, and it's easier to contest without dying. But it also means that the further back you are and the closer you are to spawn, even though it's only a couple of meters, means the sooner you can get to healing from Ana. So like once you're a few down, like keep that in mind of like whether or not you can play more aggressively or more defensively. So, you know, if you're like 4 up and there's 6 of you and there's 2 of them, by all means, just go all out, you know, like jump on their heads, like Goomba stomp them. It's, you know, the odds are literally stacked in your favor. Whereas right now, you're 4, 1, 2, 3 plus Almant, who I think is like just coming back from spawn, versus, well, at the moment they've just got the Roadhog, but then just round the corner is Ash and Mercy. And so you need to notice when you have the advantage and when you don't, and how to play
There
around
you
that.
guys.
Thank
It's the
you.
best I can do.
Oh, good, he missed that hit shot. Oh shit. Ooh, I'm gonna need you to exist very hard. But
It's
Doing
Ana's
my
back,
best.
Ana's back, Ana's back.
oh
where's
god.
that? That's inside.
Inside the house. Get the hog. Go on the hog.
Ooh, that was from behind. There's a Ash on the pillars.
Alright, that's fine. Regroup.
Reset, what were we saying?
Yeah, reset. Cool. Same thing going on the Ana on the Mercy.
Yeah. So like here, do people have like a notepad or, you know, notes on their phone or something available in front of them?
Yeah.
Sweet. I know only one person said that, but I'm just taking that like a collective yes. Thank you in advance.
Okay, she's okay.
Yeah. So what is one thing that you guys could do in the downtime between fights that you should, you know, take advantage of that time for?
Plan what ults we're gonna use.
Yep. What else?
What, like, I guess what you said before, like win condition, what their win condition is, what our win condition is, and
Yeah.
how we stop their win condition, like who we should be focusing straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those are the two sort of key things, I guess. To do alt tracking, you don't need to press tab. However, if they make a change to a Genji and a Reinhardt, and you guys didn't press tab at least once in the middle or like between engagements, then you look silly, you know? Saying like between fights, if the enemy team is, you know, they're in spawn and they're like, oh, you know, this isn't working, let's change this up. You guys need to, like, at that point where they're thinking that, you need to have like your menu on, like you need to be holding down tab so that you can see if they make any changes. And it also helps to visualize what heroes they have, because then you go, okay, does hero 1 have ult? Yes or no. Does hero 2 have ult? Yes or no. Does hero 3, blah blah blah, hero 6 have ult? And then you go, okay, so they have Ana, they have Mercy, they have Ash. So what are they going to do with this? And then you've got another person on your team, or a couple of people on your team, could be a group effort, that say, okay, we're 98% to Ash, we've got Lucio, and we've got almost a nano blade. So it's like, what can we do with this information? And then one person says, oh, can we do this? And then you go, yeah, let's do it. Because then, regardless of whether it's the correct move or the correct thing to say, hey, like, let's wait until Anna's got 100% and then we'll nano blade and just try and kill all of them. Regardless of whether it's the correct move or not, everyone needs to be on the same page. Because a lot of the time, if you make the incorrect choice, but all 6 people make the incorrect choice together, it's suddenly not really the incorrect choice anymore. Because if you 6 are doing something slightly wrong, and those people, like the enemy team, have 5 people doing something right and 1 person doing something wrong, you're going to win. So, you know, the way that I try and like encourage people to do it is have 1 person alt tracking and 1 person alt planning. So, say, like, for example, say if Quirky says, okay, we have Lucio, we have Ash, so let's like engage with Lucio and then use Bob. And then you could have Libby saying, okay, alt tracking. I know that they have Anna and Mercy, but do they have anything else? And then you guys need to, like, as a group, as a team, be like, yes, they have this, or no, they don't have this. And that basically means that, you know, for the times that you can't actually see this bar on the top left of your screen, that you guys will know exactly what they have anyway, even if it's slightly incorrect, but you'll have a general idea of what they want to do and how you can go about sort of planning that stuff. So, like, if we're talking about sort of comm structures, which I was going to sort of touch on later after the entire thing, but, you know, we're sort of on a roll, so might as well do it now. I've noticed that Quality has really good comms in relation to let's go this way, or like, wait, we're damaged, like, retreat back, you know, in terms of that, where the team positions itself. So, like, by all means, Tick, you're doing an amazing job, keep doing that, it's awesome. And then also just, you know, scream out whoever you're swinging a hammer at or zapping, you know, it's all fine. But then we need to have someone that is capable of being like, can we use, or how about we use this ultimate and this ultimate for this fight? Which, you know, can be absolutely anyone. I encourage everyone to try it out, see if the dress fits. But then the other one that's probably the most important is someone that's keeping tabs, or at least is constantly asking the team, what ultimates do they have? And if you keep a mental list of, you know, it can just be, you keep a list of your own counterpart. So, you know, the main tank keeps track of the other main tank's ultimate, and that sort of thing. If all 6 of you are keeping track of your counterpart, then you have all 6 ultimate statuses. So, you know, you could have 5 people that don't know what percentage the Genji on the enemy team is at, but there is, you know, Element who's like, oh no, he's only at 25%. It's fine. So you suddenly know all 6. So I would say, like, everyone try and do something like that by yourself in like comp matches or whatever. But as a team, everyone try and do that. Everyone try and be that person, and then see who it fits best. You know, because some people say, like, Andy could be like, oh, you know, we've got these ultimates, so how about we do this and this? And then we could be like, yeah, good idea, let's do that. Or there could be someone like me who's much more like, I don't know, you figure out what you want to do, but I know that they have this, this, and this. In which case, that helps normally the main tank, the one who's sort of shepherding the sheep everywhere, i.e. you guys, to work around what ultimates they have. But yeah, like, definitely write down alt planning, i.e. what are we going to do with our alts? Alt tracking, i.e. what are they going to do with their alts? And those are sort of two of the really, really key things that like should be written down and just constantly sort of glanced at.
They're gonna hold up in this turret.
Ooh. Yeah, just regroup.
Uh oh. Back right out. Go to spawn. We have to wait. And they're gonna poke us here.
Yeah.
Good call.
Putty, jump off. We got a lot of ults to engage with. What will they have?
Yes!
Hog and Nether, right?
Yes!
Okay, listen, can you
Yeah.
throw Dynamite in?
I feel like we're time traveling with the.
What
They
was
will
that?
have Shut Up, they'll have
Chat there.
Genji.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't see them use Nano.
Yeah. Oh, well, like don't get me wrong. I mean, like in Bears and Cardinals and stuff like that. If you watch VODs that we do, there is absolutely no way in hell that we do ult planning or ult tracking in between every single fight. Like it's something that you start off horribly, horribly inconsistent, and then after practicing it for a bit, you get like just a little bit more consistent. It's always going to be a work in progress, but as long as you keep that in your head, then eventually it'll become a habit.
But
Let's go around the right side. Around the right side. Avoid that little part.
Oh,
There's a Genji back here. There's a Genji. Genji.
Buddy's just got fucked up.
Oh.
Oh, okay, that works. Let's go.
Yeah, go in. Go in. Go in.
So this is a really
Ana.
like a really curious engage from you guys, and you can sort of see that Andy's like, which way do I look? Like, yeah, right?
It's
you
like, how
have-
do I choose?
Yeah. Okay, so
Oh.
if you can look
Okay, that works.
through
That works.
the screen. Yeah, okay. This is probably the best view that we'll get. So if you're looking through the walls, you've got one sort of scuffle happening over here, and then you've got another scuffle happening over here. And these, throughout these fights, are two entirely separate events. There is nothing that relates these two things together, which is fine. But if you guys are playing Dive already has a fairly low damage output, but it relies on being pretty damn mobile and everyone sort of rushing the same target at once to make up for that damage difference, let's say. Whereas they have quite a lot of damage, but they don't really move quickly at all. You know, like they've got a nano boost, they've got Mercy's right click, they have Ashe, Reinhardt, Genji, Roadhog, like all really high damage heroes, right? And then you guys, by comparison, have like a Lucio, which is fantastic because he's really helpful for getting you guys around the place and helping you be aggressive when it's necessary. But at the same time, you guys need to figure out as a team before you engage who you're going to engage on. And it's got to be the same person. Got to be like, everyone jump on this Roadhog because he's feeding his brains out and we can take him 4-on-1,
Let's go.
Yeah, go in. On the back line.
I'm getting Ana.
On the hog.
Yeah. I'm with the hog. With you on the hog. Yeah, hog's out of here. Get the point.
Sorry. I had to move him away, so I didn't die.
That was really
He's right,
insane
he's on
from
his own.
Element.
Hog's left side.
Yeah, kill him if you can. Right behind you on the point, please. Thank you.
My
Okay. What do we have?
Okay, so here, and this is pretty much all to do with positioning, and completely separate to what I wrote down as like the top 3 things that were sort of a concern. But you want to, like, this game goes extremely quickly. It only takes like roughly 100 seconds for you to cap a point, like from 0 to 100. But there is sort of downtime in between where you still need to be doing a lot of stuff, but not necessarily fighting. So at this stage, you've got Ashe here, you've got Lucio, and I think this is Diva. You've got Ana behind, and you've got Winston behind, and I'm not sure where Alamant's gone, but I think he's in the mix somewhere around here. Let's just say he's here, for example. In terms of positioning, they have all 6 of their players behind this one shield. So since you guys are split up and they have an Ash, they have probably quite a few ultimates, that you guys need to plan how to dismantle this really neatly organized group of people. So what are people's thoughts on how you guys should position yourself to counter their positioning? Or not so much to counter their positioning, but to take into account their positioning. Like if you want, there's in the top left of the screen, there's like a little flag icon that says get control, and you can use the drawing tools if you want.
Buddy says stand far back with the Ana and let the Ana and DPS focus down the shield.
Yeah. What else?
I was thinking, I guess to throw a nade in and then dive with Diva and Monkey and like kind of try to boot people up in a sense.
Yeah.
But we all need to be together first for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue
Yeah.
currently is that we're not.
I think.
How?
Sorry.
No. You go. You go.
I was thinking maybe we could play a bit aggressive and initiate with Sound Barrier, and then maybe or initiate with Nano Winston, or and then use Sound Barrier for survivability, and like just play really aggressive.
Yeah, that's the best answer that I've heard so far. So like, how do I word it? No. That was really good because it took into account what ultimates you have. It included a lot more context into the situation, which not that I necessarily asked for it, but that like considering that sort of stuff is always absolutely valid, especially given that Quirky's at half health, and that there's a Bob right here. Like, oh crap, Quirky's gonna die, which essentially means that you guys aren't at 3 ultimates anymore. You're at 2. This is on like a hypothetical. Quirky's still alive, but there's a high chance that she could be dead, and that you won't have a sound barrier, which means that it's going to sway more in their favor. So one thing that you could do is find a way to dive on them somehow, which is like fairly doable, even though you've got your Winston a little bit further behind than would normally be comfortable. But you've still got a Diva who can engage. You've still got Ash who can put in some damage, but also retreat behind into the room if necessary. And you've got like a fairly good position for your Ana, in the back lines where she's got view of virtually everyone. So, like, what's the best way to dive? You want to have your tanks jump in, irritate them, but then you also want them to be supported, which means that if you've got players that are standing like here behind the Rhine shield, they're not going to get healed. So one of the best things to do, at least this is what I do whenever I'm playing Ana, is that I don't throw a nade before the dive or to start the dive. I wait for the tanks to dive, because then what does a Reinhardt do if Winston jumps behind him?
He turns around.
Exactly. So what happens to his shield? It's sort of useless.
Drops it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like eventually at some point a Reinhardt will know to let the other 5 people of his team sort that out, and he'll keep the shield up so that it makes it harder for you guys. But at this sort of current moment, the best thing that you guys could do would be, just see how they react to something and see if you can find like a little opportunity that you can put an ability to sort of screw them up a little bit more. So, if Diva dives in, if Winston dives in, even though it'd be a little bit far for him, so I'd have to sort of walk forwards and then dive in. Once they get here, in the thick of it, let's say, you guys have nano boost, so you can nano the Winston, which I would highly recommend. Fantastic suggestion. And then you can still get a nade off. You can like the Lucio can utilize that to walk around, or not walk around, but to sort of skate around and try and get a boop off, or to speed the tanks out if they're sort of in a pickle. And then it's basically, what I'm trying to say is that you guys take into account the situation that you're in, whether or not it's some like a bad situation that you have personally put yourself in, or whatever. If it's a good situation, like positionally speaking, that you work with what you have and you find a way to get out of it, or find a way to get out of it on top. So the suggestion that that you use ultimates is absolutely 100% correct. Because if you guys in this situation right now were to have, let's call it like an ultimate-less fight where absolutely no one pressed Q, these guys would win. And it's purely just because they're more cohesive currently, just based on where they're positioned in this cute little corner. So yeah, you guys need to, like, as dive tanks specifically, have that moment of like, oh, they're like in a really cute little bunch right now. Like, just as a scientific experiment, what would happen if you put a nanoed Winston into the middle of that? You know, I can't imagine it would be fantastic for them. It'd make their life kind of irritating because they've got this big, chunky thing just zapping away at all their squishies. So, like, let's see how that works out.
Yeah.
And I'm not even kidding. Like, a lot of sort of success stories in this game are more just that someone's experimented with this sort of stuff. Like, a lot of people know now that nanoing a Winston is actually really good because, when he's nanoed, he has a fairly high DPS output and he can zap multiple people at once. So people are sort of taking that nanoed Winston is a good thing. But when the game began, nobody knew that. And so it took a certain level of experimentation for people to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this works. So yeah, absolutely. I would say so. That's actually a really good spot to put a bulb. Oh!
Am I missing something?
Yeah. Mine's not playing either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
I thought my internet died.
Yeah.
Paddy
mine-
mentioned Anna didn't get added till like 10 minutes. Everyone spots.
Yeah,
What
my
the?
mine's not playing anymore.
Super strange. I love Visor. It's not glitchy at all.
Everyone refresh.
Quick
Yeah,
refresh.
just do that.
Okay.
I was like, you're making sounds and nothing is happening.
I know.
Like an idiot.
That is exactly what I was thinking.
Has it reloaded for you guys? Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, mine still says 825 and a loading symbol.
Yeah.
Yep.
Weird. I wonder what would happen if I refreshed.
Yeah. When Element joined and we'd paused, he couldn't see the VOD until you'd press play. So.
Oh, that's really strange.
It says, Mayhem, go live. Add your
Yeah,
video.
that's-
Oh, what
title."
is?
Yeah, that's the sort of like placeholder sticker before you put a video in.
Oh, okay.
There we are. So it should be loading up.
Yes, those are things that are happening.
Yeah.
We can still hold him.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Okay, I've skipped a
Right
little
one,
bit too
right
far.
one.
Underneath.
Yeah, Genji,
Okay, there we
Genji,
are.
Genji. Genji's low, Genji's one, Genji's one. Nice. Messi. He's gone. Anna, going from the Anna.
On the half.
Anna's low, Anna's low.
It's even.
Ash is low as well. Nice.
That's like quite literally the level of comms, at least for target calling, that you guys should try and have all the time.
Yeah.
like it's a really damn good example of comms to have. You know, one of the things that I did sort of notice is that not everyone focuses on the person that, you know, the main shot caller is screaming out. So like at the moment, if I was to draw a line that connected where people were looking at that point in time, you've got Koality who's looking at whichever squishy it is that she's zapping, and then you've got Libby who's sort of looking in the general direction of both tanks, which is, you know, what you're doing because you're a healer, and then you've got Putty who's, I'm gonna be optimistic and say, looking for the hog.
He just woke up from a sleep.
Ah,
Yeah.
Nice.
and then
He waved. Did you see that?
Solid BM.
yeah. So here, this is just a little aside for Libby or anyone that's playing Ana.
Yeah.
Don't position yourself in a doorway or inside of a doorway.
Yeah.
Just because things like that can happen. So let's call it like a dead zone, that if you're playing Ana and you're standing on point, you don't stand here. You don't stand here. Purely because if there is someone that's in the doorways or whatever, it makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's why generally you'll never see an Ana play on the point on this particular map, is because this whole space here is vulnerable. This whole space here is vulnerable. Then you've got this space here is also vulnerable, because if they have a Lucio or anyone that can boop, then you're screwed. And
Yeah.
this place is also vulnerable because it's on the enemy's side, which basically means that the only place that's good for you to position yourself is like dead in the center of the point, which is particularly stupid because you have no escape route, or this tiny little sliver, which doesn't really offer you much in the way of like strategic advantage.
Yeah.
So-
It doesn't give me anywhere to go
Yeah.
if I need to escape. It doesn't give
absolutely.
me
So I would say
anything to work with.
in the downtime, and like I would sort of classify this as downtime, you know, even though there have been kills on both sides, you guys are more or less sort of, you've got the point. You've got an Ana, you've got 2 tanks versus a Roadhog, kind of like pretty in your favor, right? And so I'd use this time to reposition yourself. If
Yeah.
there's ever downtime, it's like does anyone else, or has anyone else previously worked at Macca's or something similar? Of like, when they
Yes.
say if you have time to lean, you have time to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still heard
Unfortunately,
that.
I'm
yeah.
having flashbacks.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for triggering all of you. However, it's that sort of mentality very much applies. It's not like, okay, we just stand around and wait for them to re-engage. It's like, okay, I need to reposition myself. I need to heal this tank. I need to like get my abilities off cooldown and that sort of thing. So you're very much like preparing and using all of the available time that you have to be doing something that's valuable.
Okay.
Hog on point.
I can bubble. Well, it doesn't last very long, does it? Yeah, hog. Nice. Nice name.
That was
Get on the right.
really well focused.
Genji's hard.
Amping heals.
They're backing out.
We can still hold him here.
Yeah. Hold him here, I've got my ult.
Oh, Genji needs heals, Genji needs
That's
heals.
ooh, I need healing.
Yeah.
Genji's half, Genji's low.
You're antied.
Yeah. I had to use it.
Oh,
Ana's right there in the middle of the point as well. Yeah, nice.
Rezzing. Messy res.
Ana's in the house, Ana's in the house, on her own.
He's looking.
Yeah, get Mercy behind the point. Just hop.
so this should be in your guys'
Yeah,
favor.
nice.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
a sweet group. I was like, why the hell did he go off the edge?
Like that was really good.
It was pretty funny.
They didn't like, the enemy team didn't seem to have much in the way of like target focus, which is great because it basically means that, you know, there's a higher chance that you guys will come out of this alive. But at the same time, it's also an opportunity for you guys to be like, okay, let's all focus this one person and just completely cremate them. And you guys seem to do that
Nice stuff.
pretty
guys.
well.
Josh?
Winston at least anyway, and D.Va somewhat.
Well, if they won that first fight, they would have stayed Bastion.
Yeah, so it's good we coordinated that well.
Nice view.
Yeah, let's stay on
Jesus
this.
Christ,
See
Andy.
what they do.
So mature.
We need more dive practice anyways.
This is a family stream.
I need to cater to the children as well.
We're playing a lot of Ash and Comp as well, which is good.
Otherwise, they'll lose
No,
interest.
we all need
Sorry,
to
American Pie.
read your personal messages.
They got ball, ball, Genji. Alright, just ignore him for a bit. Oh, big pebble, big pebble. Going on the Lucio's one.
Ball one.
Genji's half.
Oh no.
Yeah, Winston or Lucio, they're in the middle of us.
Genji one.
Nice. Winnable. Coming back. Less
Lucio
winnable.
one.
Less winnable.
Much less winnable.
Come back.
Sizzle.
Can we
Okay.
pause there for a second?
Yeah. I was going to anyway. Good timing.
Oh, okay. Because I noticed at the beginning of that fight, Hamster came through and the team got split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. He just knocks into you and then you sort of go flying. It's really irritating. How do you guys think that you should deal with that?
Probably call everyone back in, I guess, to re-engage, and call where to re-engage,
Yeah.
as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, because being a split up team is sort of irritating when that wasn't your intention, right? Like sometimes people do play very split, and it's just a type of play style. But in this sort of thing, you're trying to remain together. So on like a bit more of a micro level, how would you guys deal with the Hammond based on the heroes that you have?
I mean, I kind of ignore him.
Hmm. Did that work out for you guys?
Because the hamster normally doesn't really do much.
He managed to do enough, at least in that beginning engagement, that his team could capitalize on you guys being sort of flung about the place. But if you were to be like, there's a Hammond who's just swinging in front of us, what can you guys do with the current heroes you have based on the abilities that they have?
Probably nade him, because that doesn't help him at all. He goes down fairly quickly when he's.
Yep. What else?
Libby acquires God Aim and sleeps him.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a
Yeah.
boop. Does boop knock him out of his swing?
Dynamites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dynamite.
Yeah. So the best thing, at least in my mind, that you guys have a fair amount of CC. You know, you've got Ana Nade. Not that that's technically CC, but it sort of dissuades him from continuing. You've got Sleep Dart. You've got boops from D.Va. You've got boops from Lucio. You've got boops from Ash. So you guys are fairly capable of dealing with him, or at least if not specifically dealing with him and just sort of fending him off while you're dealing with something else, then you're still capable of doing that. I don't think that just ignoring is necessarily the best way to go. Because I mean, like you sort of saw there, I mean, like you ignored him and kind of let him disrupt you guys enough that his team could claim space and eventually kill you. So, you know, if he's around this pillar, and the reason that people love playing Hammond on this point is because there is a pillar that they can just sort of fly off, fling around and, you know, be a nuisance while they continue flying. He's got a fairly predictable arc, you know. You know where he's anchored to, you know where he's going to be swinging, he's going to be more or less going in a circle. You can just boop him in the opposite direction or sleep him or something like that, and then speed forwards. Because even though they have a Lucio, the second that you sleep one of their 6 characters, it's your advantage. And so you can just be like, okay, now everyone target this person, and then you just go forward. But I don't think that letting a Hammond sort of just do his thing is particularly all that helpful, because even though he doesn't really like kill and like absolutely ruin the backlines or anything like that, you know, is not like a Genji or Tracer in the backlines, but the way that he sort of boops people around and irritates them in like pile drives and all that sort of stuff, it does enough damage that it's like a little bit concerning, but then also that he just completely screws up your positioning. Means that you guys need to sort of address him, whether that's with CC or with just like insane burst damage, like whichever.
Hey guys, in that first fight, Libby got a really good anti-nade on both Winston and Lucio was like 1 health.
Yeah. I got booed back by the ball and I couldn't get there to help, but
Yeah.
That's fair enough. You need line of sight. But
Balls up
everybody who was mobile needed to be on him.
Yeah. So like that, like extremely good analysis. So it was one that they were 1 health and they were naded, but they didn't die. And so then the question in my head is, can you imagine what would have happened if just one more person focused them? But then the second was, what was it specifically?
Libby got.
I got booed back by the ball and I couldn't get there to help, but
that's fair enough.
Yeah, and then got booed back by the ball, so couldn't help. Is also like, but there was another issue that you could have dealt with, but didn't necessarily. Because like, can you imagine if you slept the hamster, and then followed up on whoever quality was calling, then you guys probably could have won that. And so, like with Hammonds in future, whether you deal with him by like Brig stun or like using Ash's coach gun, sleep darts, whatever it is at your disposal, can't speak English for a second. Then like definitely just utilize that.
Who was mobile needed to be on him.
Don't let him get free reign.
Okay, they're all in here. Genji's behind us. Behind us, punish him.
Oh, that's not
Here's one.
I got
Nice.
Mamping heals. Tell me back.
Lucio's one.
Anna's on point by herself.
Even trade.
Nope.
Ash is high ground right side.
Yeah, Ash is high ground right side.
Sorry, that is right. My bad.
So like, I should probably go back to it. This is a fairly good, I guess. Yeah, okay. So if we're looking at this particular still, the enemy team has their Ash on this high ground over here, who managed to get 3 kills. There was another one here before. So they've got Ash on high ground. They've got their tanks on this ground here, which if you guys are at the bottom of the stairs, I guess you could consider higher ground. And then they have pretty much their entire team set up, you know? And I think they've got another person coming back from spawn. You guys, based on your position here, are at like a fairly big disadvantage. Disregarding that, you know, you're like purpled from the Ana and that sort of thing. Like, I noticed that Bliss came down from this high ground to come here. And it's like, while you are with your team, you're still playing a long range or mid range hero. So it's like, would I get more value individually if I was here doing this, or if I was there doing this? You know, you're doing the exact same thing, you know, shooting at people. But based on where you position yourself, you can have like a fair amount more impact. And that's not just to Bliss, that's to pretty much everyone.
Ash is high ground right side.
Sorry, that is right. My bad.
They used beat, and I don't know why.
They're back out. So we got them to use Lucio. What will they have?
Did they blade in that room, or was that just him destroying
No,
us?
it was just sliding. Alright, let's go left side. Left side, so Ash has got more drop.
That was a that was perfectly done, almost. In that, say, what else do they have, or what did they use is another good one. Like, they used Lucio, they used Winston, and then it's like, okay, so maybe with that information, I should say, okay, so they have Hammond, they have Ash, they have Anna, they have Genji. And then you need to take that information just that tiny step further than what you did just that 5 seconds ago and say, okay, they're probably gonna like use Bob to engage, or they're gonna like nano blade or something like that. Or they're gonna nano Bob. Oh god, that's terrifying. But you know, something like that. If you're coming up with ideas on what they might do, then it helps to inform you guys who is your like highest priority target.
Oh, you do need healing. If you use your voice, then I know. Yes.
Alright.
TY.
And
I
just
have
use the wall for cover. Back out here, use the elephant.
Are you gonna try and boot us off?
Sorry for being a bitch.
Don't use ults, no
Wait,
ults,
no,
no
it's
ults,
fine.
no ults.
Wait, what were you being bitch? Where? What?
I just kind of sassed Element.
Back out here.
Oh, I mean, you haven't heard my comms before in game. It's
Back here, use the
no,
elephant.
it's fine.
Are you gonna try and boot us off?
Don't use ults, no ults, no ults, no ults.
Okay, both healers are on point by themselves.
Yeah, so they ended up nanoblading, like fairly. Well, it's not obvious, but it's like the more likely. And then you guys focused him down pretty well. At this point, should be
Bliss and I coming back.
calling who?
Yeah, no ults, no ults,
No?
no ults. That was nano blade for
We're
nothing.
never using our ultimate more.
Can you just pause for a moment?
Yeah.
I noticed watching this again, watching how he came out of that side and the wrecking ball came
Mhm.
rolling towards us, that gave me anxiety.
Yeah.
Considering we got lucky, but if he hit us the right way, he could have knocked off like one or two of us.
Hmm. Yeah.
So maybe thinking about how we engage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, did you have something to say? Go for it.
Yeah, also with the engage, I think when after they got the 2 kills with the Genji blade, we should have just immediately disengaged because they used their win condition right there. The fight's lost, and then I think we wasted maybe like 10%, and we're at like 70% at that point. Like we need all the percentage you can get, like 70.
Yeah,
We should have just like
I would say
jumped
so.
off the edge and then reset with 6 ults, and we could have just came in easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be something like you know, you've just realized that like your main tank's died, or that, you know, whoever's died, and that if you keep engaging, then you're not actually going to get full value. So what you could do is be like, okay, no, speed back to spawn, or if you're going to get caught because they're like too close to you and you're trying to run back to spawn, then just let them kill you or jump off a cliff. Like literally tactical suicide.
I can touch, I've got my thing.
I think we'll get a full regroup.
Yeah, we've got all our ults, so it should be good.
Alright, I could touch.
Ah, like see that? And this is what they did really well, is their Ashe never moved. After, like before the engage happened, their Winston jumped up onto this high ground, which basically means that he can just like drop down and start zapping people, and then he can fly away. And they're all like the entire enemy team set up. And you guys have to engage because you're at 93%, so you need to get on. And it's like,
Anna's on the outside.
who do we get on?
She's caught up. Yeah, nice.
Winston's behind, Winston's
Alright, who's the other healer? Lucio.
I'm down.
Oh,
Oh, we're both down. Both heals out.
that was unfortunate, Quirky.
Yeah, I was very upset.
That
Yeah.
gasp.
Lucio was one. Yeah.
Delay.
So like disregarding, because stuff like that where you know get like killed out of your or stunned out of your ultimate, that honestly happens to a lot of people at literally any skill level. I would probably say with that, part of the reason that failed for you guys was because you didn't communicate where you wanted to go, how you wanted to approach it. And if you guys are running dive on this point and you've got an Ash, you want to do pretty much what they do. And on one of the engages, you had the right idea where you all came out this high ground. But keep the Ash and the Ana on high ground. You know, get the tanks to jump in, the Genji to like do his flanky thing, and then the Lucio can sort of jump back to the Ana when it's you know, when she's in danger, or he can like be there to speed the tanks out and sort of be that like liaison almost. So yeah, I think that apart from that, Ash was absolutely popping off, and you guys, I don't think, addressed that in this particular map at all, which is fine, but it's just something to take note of. That, yeah, like at least on this map with the composition that you had, you guys could have rolled out like actually onto the map very differently, and it would have had some pretty different effects that probably would have meant that it was a little bit closer than 100 to 0. So, you know, whether that's something like having healers at main and then having, you know, like a DPS set up on high ground, or having like one tank come in from the side and one tank come in from main or something like that. Like if you're sort of splitting your ground before you dive, that essentially means that you're attacking whoever from multiple sides, which makes their life hell. But yeah, like main takeaway from that one though was just comms. Yeah, and like, and part of the reason that it was a really good VOD to sort of get information from or to learn from is that you had moments where you were really like alt tracking and alt planning really well, and then other times where you weren't. And it's just about raising that consistency. Like, don't beat yourself up if you don't do it all the time, because nobody really does it all the time unless they're like professionals. But yeah, I would say just alt tracking, alt planning, and then listening more to Quality when she's target calling and actually following up on it as well. Yeah, and like, even though if you're solo queuing or something like that, it might sound stupid, but you know, like just practice those comms in games with random strangers, because it'll help them even if they're unaware of it. But yeah, like the main takeaway from this entire thing, that as a team, obviously like individual stuff we can go about later, but as a team, the main thing to focus on, I would say, would be communication, like specifically alt tracking and alt planning, because like you've already got a fairly strong target caller in Quality, and that, you know, obviously while she can practice that and keep getting better at that, you guys can practice better on, like, you know, she says like Moira, then you guys can be like, yeah, Moira, like that sort of thing, because it helps to reinforce the call out.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that sort of thing is super helpful. Just try and pack every second of speaking in with relevant information. You know, like Genji no dash, Ana no sleep, you know, that sort of thing. Because it really is just sort of a practice scenario. It's not like oh, you have to think of it differently and then suddenly you've got the skill. Like, you don't unlock this when you prestige, you know, it's just something that you practice. But yeah, I think that's it from me. Like at least with this one, like this particular VOD, super helpful to figure out, like, I guess you could say, yeah, like the main key issues, and then a whole lot of the smaller stuff will come later. So I would say don't worry about that. But yeah, I think that was a really good VOD to learn from. Yeah. Is there any questions or anything that people have?
I think I got one thing to emphasize your point with like holding the high ground on that point. It's like if you're like there's like I guess there's like two maybe three type of characters in a team fight. Like there's the frontline characters, the backline characters, and then like Diva can be both because she can like peel for backline and whatever.
Yeah.
And like if you're the backline character, like the Anna and the Ash, just like recognize you're the backline character and stay in the backline and not try and like push up into like awkward positions where you can't really like do much compared to if
Yeah.
you're in the backline.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like reinforcing your positioning for your character rather than
Yeah.
like
Well,
in group positions.
yeah,
Not, we
or
don't
like
always have to be grouped together,
Yeah.
but
Or
still
like,
working together, you know?
say like if Libby's playing Anna and she's like, oh, I'm at the back high ground, or like, Winston, can you move to the side because I can't see you, like you're out of LOS, or come back to the payload if you need heals because that's where I am, or you know, that sort of thing. Because a lot of the time people won't have the game sense to just inherently know where their teammates are, and it's a pretty damn hard thing to do, you know. But I would definitely say just practice those sort of things in terms of comms because they're really helpful, and you can notice the effects of it when you're in games.
And I think if you like know your backline, you know what your backline and your frontline is, it makes it easier for characters like Lucio and Diva to position themselves. Because if say we've got like instead of the Ash we got a Tracer Genji dive with the Anna and the Lucio, then like Anna's by herself on that high ground. If she gets dived, then it'll make it easier for like Diva and Lucio to always be in a position to peel for the Anna.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just means that everyone's a bit more on the same page, you know. So yeah, like I would say, just go into your next scrim, like write down, like alt tracking, alt planning. It'll become such a boring concept by the end of it, but it's so bread and butter that it's like necessary to practice. Yeah. But that's it from me. If
We have places to be.
Yes.
Oh yeah, fucking it's 9 o'clock, isn't it? God damn shit. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks
I'll be
heaps
back in a
for
sec. Thank you
tonight.
so much. If you have any
Good luck.
more questions about the thing, just message me.
We will. We will.
Yay. Okie dokie.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks for
thanks,
coming.
guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was cool. They both did it at the same time. Nice timing.
Wow. What did you guys think? You happy with that?
Yeah, that was pretty spot on.